Once upon a time, but not in the fairy tale sense, in the cold, hard reality of family greed, my life was split in two by a single sheet of paper. My parents' will. I still remember the day with vivid clarity. The lawyer's office smelled faintly of leather, dust, and polished wood, like a place where decisions were carved into stone and destinies were sealed forever. I sat at the long mahogany table, my palms damp, my heart pounding, waiting to hear what my parents had left behind for me. Beside me sat my brother, David, his tie perfectly knotted, his hair slicked back with expensive gel, its expression calm but smug as if he already knew the outcome. The lawyer cleared his throat, adjusted his glasses, and began to read. His voice echoed in the quiet room. To our son David, we leave the family home, the vehicles, and the entirety of the financial investments. To our daughter Sarah, we leave the river cottage. That was it. It's just the cottage. A crumbling old shack 2 hours from the city, with peeling paint, a leaking roof, and a reputation for being more burden than blessing. I felt the blood drain from my face. Around the table, I could see sympathetic glances. My aunt touched my arm in pity. Even the lawyer gave me a fleeting look that said, "Sorry." But not David. David leaned back in his chair, lips curling into the faintest smirk. He didn't need to say anything. Silence screamed louder than words. "Better luck next time, little sister." And in that moment, something inside me cracked. The following week, I packed up my small hatchback with what little I owned and drove out to the cottage. The road wound endlessly through dense forest, the kind where sunlight barely touches the ground. The deeper I went, the more isolated I felt, as if I were driving straight out of civilization into exile. When I finally pulled up, my heart sank. The cottage leaned slightly to one side, its porch sagging like tired shoulders. The shutters hung loose on rusted hinges, and weeds had claimed the yard with a vengeance. The paint had long since peeled away, leaving weather-beaten wood exposed to decades of storm. Out inside, it was worse. The air was thick with mildew, dust floated in the light from cracked windows, and cobwebs stretched across the corners like forgotten memories. The floorboards groaned under each step, whispering, "You don't belong here." That first night, I didn't even bother unpacking. I sat on the wooden floor with nothing but a lamp and a blanket, listening to the forest howl. Outside, I cried not the loud, dramatic sobs of movies, but the quiet tears that burn your throat because you're trying too hard to swallow them. I felt abandoned, cheated, humiliated. But somewhere between those tears and the silence of the forest, something changed. I realized that if this cottage was all I had, then I was going to make it mine, so I rolled up my sleeves and got to work. Day by day, I began repairing the cottage. I scrubbed the floors until my knuckles were raw. I hammered nails into broken boards, patched holes in the roof with scrap wood, and painted the walls with whatever secondhand paint I could afford. It wasn't easy. My hands blistered, my back ached, and more than once I collapsed onto the bed, too tired to even eat dinner. But slowly, something began to happen. The cottage started to change. The rooms, once hollow and lifeless, began to feel warm again. The porch, though crooked, no longer sagged under my weight. The fireplace crackled with life, filling the air with heat and comfort. And outside, the river glimmered in the evening sun, as though it had been waiting for me all along. But the biggest change wasn't in the cottage, it was in me. I wasn't just surviving. I was rebuilding, piece by piece. I was reclaiming my life. One night, as autumn painted the forest in shades of gold and crimson, I sat by the fire with a book in my lap. The air outside had a strange stillness, the kind that makes the hair on your arms stand up, and then, without warning, the storm rolled in. The wind howled through the trees like a beast set free. Rain lashed against the windows in furious waves. Lightning tore across the sky, illuminating the forest in jagged flashes. And then it happened. A deafening crack split the night as lightning struck the old oak tree by the riverbank. Its massive trunk shuddered, split in half, and collapsed with a thunderous crash, its roots ripping free from the earth. I rushed outside, soaked to the bone, watching in stunned silence as the once mighty oak lay defeated in the mud. And that's when I saw it. Beneath the torn roots, where the earth had been ripped apart, was something strange. a wooden hatch. At first I thought I was imagining it. The rain blurred my vision. The storm roared in my ears. But when I stepped closer, I saw it clearly. Weathered planks of wood, iron hinges rusted nearly black, hidden under decades of soil. My heart raced. My hands trembled. What was this? I grabbed a flashlight and pried open the hatch. The hinges groaned in protest. But slowly the door gave way. A dark staircase spiraled into the earth, swallowed by shadows. With a deep breath, I descended. The air grew colder, damp with the smell of stone and earth. My flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing rough walls lined with shelves. And tools, and then I saw them. Sacks, dozens of them, stacked neatly against the walls, covered in dust and cobwebs. My pulse quickened as I dragged one into the light, untied the cord, and poured its contents onto the ground: gold, nuggets, coins, jewelry. The beam of my flashlight made them shimmer like fire. I gasped, stumbling backward, my heart hammering. In my chest, it didn't feel real. I opened another sack. And another, each one heavier than the last. Each one filled with the same dazzling treasure. And then I found it a leather-bound ledger, its pages yellowed with age. On the first page, written in shaky handwriting I recognized instantly, were the words, "For the one who needs it most." Tears blurred my vision as I clutched the book to my chest. My grandfather, he hadn't abandoned me. He hadn't left me scraps. He had trusted me. Page after page recorded years of quiet labor. Dates, weights, values. My grandfather had been mining the river in secret, quietly building a fortune sack by sack, never telling a soul. And now it was mine. I sank to the floor, surrounded by gold, tears streaming down my face. My despair, my anger, my humiliation, it all melted into something else. Hope and something darker. Revenge. For months, I told no one. I kept repairing the cottage, making it warm and livable, while secretly selling small pieces of gold. Each appraisal confirmed what I already knew. I was sitting on millions, but I didn't touch it all. I waited, because I knew David would come, and I was right. 6 months later, I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. A shiny black SUV pulled into the driveway, polished to perfection, reflecting the forest around it. Out stepped David, dressed in a tailored suit, his watch gleaming in the sunlight. He walked up the porch with a practiced smile plastered across his face, the kind of smile that never reached his eyes. "Sarah," he said, his voice dripping with fake warmth, "you can't live out here forever. Let me take the cottage off your hands. I'll get you a nice apartment in the city." 100 grand cash? I smiled politely. "No thanks, David." "Don't be stupid. You can't afford to keep this place. Just sign it over." That was my moment. I led him to the backyard, to the torn oak roots, to the hidden hatch. His curiosity got the better of him, and he followed me down. When his eyes landed on the sacks of gold, his jaw dropped. His hands trembled as he picked up a nugget. "This is ours," he stammered. "Part of the estate. It belongs to me." I shook my head, calm, cold, certain. "No, David. The will gave me the cottage and everything on the land, including mineral rights. I had it confirmed by a lawyer. You gave this away." His face drained of color. He sputtered, shouted, threatened. But it didn't matter. He had no claim, no power, and I wasn't done with just a fraction of my newfound wealth. I bought up the debt on one of David's biggest business deals, a failing downtown property he'd sunk millions into. I became his anonymous creditor. And then, when the time was right, I foreclosed on him, the day he discovered I was the one behind it. His face was the sweetest victory I could ever imagine. His empire crumbled, his reputation shattered, and for the first time in his life, he was powerless. Now he lives in a rented apartment, struggling to rebuild the fortune he once flaunted, and me. I rebuilt the cottage stronger and warmer than one. Ever I sit on the porch at sunset, the river glimmering gold, knowing my grandfather's legacy is safe, and so is my future. So tell me, if your brother stole your fortune only for you to discover a secret inheritance worth millions, would you share it with him? Or would you do what I did and let karma take care of the rest? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.